In this video, we'll go over the best credit cards to use for dining, which earn 4 to 5% cashback on dining in, takeout, or delivery, all with no annual fee. Feel free to pause the video to read the disclaimer or find the full disclaimer in the video description below. The credit cards in this video all work a bit differently, with different rewards and restrictions, and some cards may be a better fit for you than others depending on your spending habits and credit card lineup, so it's good to consider all the options. The cards on this list will be grouped according to how the card works, in particular if the categories regularly change, if they're set in stone, or if you can customize them. Since there are a lot of no annual fee credit cards on the market that offer 3% cashback on dining, we'll only be looking at cards that offer 4 to 5% cashback. You'll also need pretty good credit to be approved for the credit cards on this list. First on the list are 2 customizable cards, which each allow you to choose the category you'll earn 5% cashback on. The first card in this category is the Citi Custom Cash Card. This card earns 5% cashback or 5x points on your highest eligible spend category each billing cycle, on up to $500 spent per billing cycle, which comes once a month. If you exceed that spend cap, you'll earn 1% cashback on purchases in that category over that cap for the rest of the billing cycle. You'll also earn 1% cashback on all other purchases with the card. They have a set list with the eligible categories, which includes restaurants, as well as gas stations, grocery stores, select travel, select transit, select streaming services, drugstores, fitness clubs, home improvement stores, and live entertainment. For restaurants, Citi states the category includes purchases at cafes, bars, lounges, and fast food restaurants, and it excludes purchases at bakeries, caterers, restaurants that are located inside another business, like hotels, stores, stadiums, grocery stores, or warehouse clubs, and third-party dining delivery services. This card's best for those that primarily spend on dining in at restaurants or ordering takeout, as opposed to getting delivery, and those that usually spend less than $500 a month on dining purchases, which usually isn't too hard if you're not ordering out that often or going to more expensive places. With this card, there's no need to activate offers or manually select the category to earn the cash back. You'll automatically earn the 5% back in the eligible category you spend the most in each billing cycle, and you can change the category every month if you like, by simply spending the most in a different category from their list. The best way to use this card is to decide which category you'd like to get the 5% back on each billing cycle. Ideally, a category you normally spend a good amount of money on that you're not able to earn 5% cash back on with your other cards, and then use your Citi Custom Cash Card for just that one category during that billing cycle. Right now, you can also earn a $200 sign-up bonus after you spend $1,500 on purchases within the first 6 months of account opening. Bear in mind, this card does have a foreign transaction fee of 3%. You can also get a 0% intro APR for 15 months on your new purchases with this card. Overall, the Citi Custom Cash Card's good to have in general, due to its flexibility and just how easy it is to use. And even though it's more limited in terms of what qualifies for the 5% back, it still covers a good amount of merchants overall. Just be aware of that $500 spend cap per billing cycle for the 5% back. And remember that it's best for dining in and ordering takeout as opposed to getting delivery. The next card on our list is the US Bank Cash Plus Visa Signature Card, which is a great supplemental card to most credit card setups, since it offers a bunch of categories to pick from to earn 5% back on, including quite a few non-traditional categories that typically can't earn 5% back with most other cards. Out of all the cards on this list, this is the most limited card in terms of what dining purchases qualify for the high cashback, as only fast food earns 5% cashback. Even so, it's such a good card to add to your wallet, as it allows you to earn the 5% back on 2 different categories. So if you tend to mostly eat fast food, or you're just looking for a card that offers 5% back on non-traditional categories like home utilities, then you may want to consider this card. With this card, you'll earn 5% cashback on your first $2,000 in eligible net purchases each quarter on the combined 2 categories you pick from US Bank's list of categories, which works out to a spend cap of a little over $660 a month, which is pretty high. If you go over that quarterly spend cap, you'll earn 1% cashback on purchases in those 2 categories above the cap for the rest of that quarter. Outside of the 5% back on the 2 categories you select, you'll also earn 5% cashback on prepaid air, hotel, and car reservations booked directly through US Bank's travel portal, 2% cashback on one everyday category of your choice, and 1% cashback on all other eligible purchases. Fast food's one of the categories on their set list that's eligible to be selected for 5% back, but they don't offer an official merchant list for what's considered fast food, so it'll just depend on the merchant category code used. With that said, burger joints like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, and In-N-Out, and other places like Subway, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, KFC, and Taco Bell should all generally fall under that category. Honestly though, unless you're having fast food really often and you don't really go to other types of restaurants to dine in, order takeout, or do delivery, the best categories to use this card for are generally recurring charges you're paying for that you can't earn 5% back on with your other cards, like home utilities, such as water, gas, and electric bills, and categories like TV, internet and streaming, cell phone, and gyms and fitness centers. In addition to the categories we mentioned, the eligible categories you can pick from for 5% back also include department stores, electronics stores, sporting goods stores, ground transportation, movie theaters, furniture stores, and select clothing stores. For the one everyday category of your choice for 2% cashback, you can pick from restaurants, grocery stores and grocery delivery, or gas stations and EV charging stations. The 2% back on the everyday category you select isn't that great though, as many catch-all cards earn 2% cashback on any purchases, regardless of the category, like the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card for instance, and there are a ton of cards that offer 3 to 5% cashback on those specific categories. It's important to note that with this card, you do need to manually select your 2 5% cashback categories and your 1 2% cashback category every quarter, and once you do so, they're locked in for that quarter. If you don't pick your Cash Plus categories every quarter, all your eligible net purchases will only earn the basic 1% cashback, so you'll want to make sure you set your categories ahead of time. Right now, this card's also offering a $250 bonus if you apply online and you spend $1,000 in eligible purchases within your first 90 days of account opening. Keep in mind there is a foreign transaction fee of 3% for this card. They're also offering a 0% intro APR for your first 15 billing cycles on new purchases with your card. The US Bank Cash Plus Visa Signature card is another card that's generally good to have either way, as it offers 5% back in 2 different categories up to a pretty high spend cap of $2,000 per quarter, with a number of non-traditional categories being eligible for the cashback, like home utilities. If you're considering this card for dining purchases specifically though, it's really best suited for anyone that mainly eats fast food and doesn't really use third-party dining delivery apps, since fast food is the only category related to dining that's eligible for 5% back on their list. Next, let's go over the rotating category cards on this list and how they can earn 5% back or potentially more on restaurant purchases specifically, depending on the cashback calendar for each card. The 2 cards under this category are the Discover A Cashback card and the Chase Freedom Flex card. Both cards earn 5% cashback on categories that rotate every quarter, according to the cashback calendar set for the card that year, which is released quarter by quarter. For each of these cards, you'll earn the 5% back on up to $1,500 in purchases across the categories that card features in a given quarter combined, which works out to about $500 a month of spend. Once you reach the quarterly spend cap, you'll earn 1% cashback on purchases in those categories over the cap for the rest of the quarter. It's important to note that with both of these cards, you'll only earn the 5% back if you activate the quarterly offer for the card. With Discover, you'll need to activate it before you spend in the 5% categories, otherwise you won't earn the 5% back on those purchases. And with Chase, you need to activate it by their deadline in the last month of each quarter in order to earn the 5% back in their featured categories, so you can earn the 5% back retroactively for that card. Both Chase and Discover normally feature 2 to 3 categories per quarter, so if you do have both cards, you can potentially earn the 5% back on 4 to 6 different categories, depending on whether there's any overlap in the categories featured between the cards. With the Discover A Cashback card, on top of the 5% cashback on the quarterly categories, you'll also earn 1% cashback on all other purchases. What sets the Chase Freedom Flex card apart is that it actually offers more cashback rewards than the Discover A Cashback card, including for dining. On top of the 5% cashback, or 5x points, on its quarterly categories, throughout the year, the Chase Freedom Flex card also earns 3% cashback on dining, including takeout and qualifying delivery services, plus 3% cashback at drugstores, 5% cashback on travel purchased through Chase's travel portal, and 1% cashback on all other purchases. Another important distinction is that historically, Chase did not feature the dining category on its 5% cashback calendar, probably since it offers 3% back on dining year-round, while Discover did feature dining on its 5% calendar pretty much once a year. In Q2 this year, Chase featured dining for the very first time though, and what was great was that it stacked on top of its year-round offer, so cardholders were able to earn 7% cashback on restaurant purchases. The way it stacks is you earn 1 base point for either the 5% categories or the year-round categories, and then an extra 4 points for those 5% categories, or an extra 2 points for those year-round categories. So it comes to 7% cashback rather than 8%. This was a really big deal. Not only were cardholders able to earn an incredibly high cashback rate of 7% on dining purchases, which included takeout and delivery, but this also opened the door to Chase potentially offering dining on their 5% cashback calendar again in the future. These two revolving category cards are really only good for dining purchases when dining's featured as a 5% cashback category, which would happen 1 quarter out of the year for either card at most. So for the rest of the year, it's best to use a different card to earn higher cashback on dining. Of course, there's no guarantee that restaurants will be featured every year for either card, but based on the history of their cashback calendars, it's likely to remain a regular category in their rotation. Overall, I do think the Chase Freedom Flex card's the better card in general, since it earns 3 to 5% cashback on a few other categories year-round, including that 3% back on dining, and they did offer 7% back on restaurants when it was featured on their calendar this year. Both of these cards are good to have in general, and they work really well together, as they tend to offer 5% back on highly popular categories that we often spend a lot on throughout the year, which means if you have both cards, you can potentially earn that 5% back on quite a few categories if there isn't too much overlap between the cards. Of course, there's more work involved to track the categories every quarter, but the rewards can absolutely be worth it. As far as other categories that usually appear on their 5% cashback calendar besides restaurants, the main categories that are often featured include gas stations and EV charging stations, grocery stores, PayPal, digital wallets, Amazon, Walmart, and Target. We've also occasionally seen other categories covered as well, like department stores, drugstores, home improvement stores, Whole Foods, select wholesale clubs, fitness clubs and gym memberships, and select streaming services. With the Discover a Cashback card, restaurants were featured in Q1 this year. Purchases that were eligible for the 5% back were those made at merchants that are classified as full-service restaurants, fast food locations, cafes, cafeterias, and restaurant delivery services. So it was pretty well-rounded overall, even including delivery apps like Uber Eats, Grubhub, and DoorDash. This card's also running a promotion right now, which is their unlimited cashback match, where Discover will basically double all the cashback you earn by the end of your first year with the card. So if you earn $100, they'll match it and give you another $100. In addition, if you use a referral link to apply for the card, you can currently get an extra $100 bonus on top of the cashback match promotion, as long as you use your card to make a purchase within your first 3 months of account opening. Since I do have this card, I've included my link in the video description below if you'd like to use it. This card also has no foreign transaction fee, and it offers a 0% intro APR for 15 months from account opening on your purchases as well. As for the Chase Freedom Flex credit card, the restaurant category was featured on their calendar for the very first time in Q2 this year. In terms of what qualified for the 5% cashback for their restaurants category, merchants whose primary business is sit-down or eat-in dining, including fast food and fine dining restaurants, were included for the 5% back. In addition, delivery and takeout services like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub were included if they classify as a restaurant merchant. The restaurants category did not include merchants that sell food and drinks within facilities like sports stadiums, hotels, casinos, theme parks, grocery stores, and department stores though, unless the merchant classifies these purchases as restaurant category purchases. Bakeries, caterers, meal kit delivery services, and gift card merchants were also excluded from the restaurants category as well. Again, since the offer stacked with their regular year-round rewards, the cashback added up to a total of 7% for dining purchases that quarter, which is very high. Right now, this card's also offering a $200 sign-up bonus if you spend $500 on purchases in the first 3 months of account opening, which is a solid bonus to spend ratio. I do have this card as well, so my referral link's in the description below if you'd like to use it. Bear in mind, Chase does sometimes run an extra promotion on top of their bonus, which is a 5% cashback offer on gas station and/or grocery store purchases for your first year with a card, up to a certain spend cap for the year. They don't have this additional offer at the moment, but they often run it at least once a year, so it's good to take advantage of it if it's available when you apply for the card. Keep in mind this card has a 3% foreign transaction fee. You can also get a 0% intro APR for 15 months from account opening on your purchases with the card. Your rewards are technically earned as points, which can be redeemed for cashback at the rate of 1 cent per point, though there are other redemption options as well. You can also transfer your points to Chase's travel partners if you do have eligible premium cards with Chase, like the Sapphire Preferred or Reserve, in order to make travel purchases. So you can potentially get even more value out of your points than the typical 1 cent per point. The Discover It Cashback card and the Chase Freedom Flex card are great cards for earning 5% back on common categories that change each quarter. In terms of dining, the Chase Freedom Flex card is definitely the better card, as the Discover It card only covers restaurants for 1 quarter out of the year for the 5% back, while Chase offers 3% back on dining year-round and will most likely offer 7% back if dining comes back on their 5% cashback calendar again next year. These cards do work best together though, as you could potentially get at least 5% back on dining for half the year between both cards, as long as they both feature restaurants that year during a different quarter. It's also nice that both cards include delivery under the restaurants category as well. Of course, with either of these cards, you'll want to keep the $1,500 quarterly spend cap in mind and be aware of any exclusions under the restaurant category as well. Finally, let's go over 2 credit cards that have high cashback rates on dining year-round. The first card in this category is the US Bank Altitude Go Visa Signature card. With this card, you'll earn unlimited 4 points per dollar spent or unlimited 4% cashback on dining, takeout, and restaurant delivery. This is a solid cashback rate for a category like dining, with no spend cap on the cashback. You can also earn 2 points per dollar spent or 2% cashback at grocery stores, at gas stations and EV charging stations, and on eligible streaming services. You'll also earn 1 point per dollar spent or 1% cashback on all other eligible purchases. The 2x and 1x rewards of this card aren't great, since many catch-all cards on the market offer 2% cashback on all purchases, and many cards offer 3% cashback or more on categories like grocery stores and gas stations. You can also get an annual $15 credit for streaming service purchases like Netflix or Spotify, which is another nice perk of this card. Bear in mind that for the dining category, you'll earn the 4x points on purchases from merchants classified as a restaurant, fast food restaurant, or bar, and that also includes delivery apps like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. This is a great card to use for 4% cashback on dining year-round, and overall it's pretty inclusive in terms of what qualifies under the restaurant category compared to other cards. So it's a solid solution if you'd like an easy way to get a high cashback rate on dining without having to worry about spend caps, tracking quarterly categories, activating offers, or manually selecting categories from a list. This is usually my personal go-to card for dining. As for the 2x categories, you'll earn the 2x points on purchases from any merchant classified as a gas station, EV charging station, grocery store, supermarket, or eligible streaming subscription service. Bear in mind though that grocery store and supermarket purchases made at discount stores or supercenters like Target and Walmart and at wholesale clubs won't earn the 2x points. In addition, gas station and EV charging station purchases made at discount stores or supercenters, wholesale clubs, and grocery stores or supermarkets won't earn the 2x points either. Right now, you can also earn 25,000 bonus points, which equates to $250, after spending $1,000 on eligible purchases within the first 90 days of account opening. This card also has no foreign transaction fees, and they're also offering a 0% intro APR for the first 12 billing cycles on your new purchases with the card as well. The US Bank Altitude Go Visa Signature card's a well-rounded dining card that offers unlimited 4% cashback on dining in at restaurants, ordering takeout, and getting delivery year-round, with very few exclusions. Since you don't have to worry about hitting any spend caps, tracking or setting categories every quarter, or activating offers, this card acts as a super easy to use catch-all card for dining. The last card on this list is the Redstone Visa Signature credit card. This card offers 5% cashback year-round on both dining and gas purchases, but there are way more strings attached and hurdles to getting the card than there are for the other cards on this list. First off, the card's offered by Redstone Federal Credit Union, which only operates in Alabama and Tennessee, and you'll have to be a member of Redstone Federal Credit Union in order to apply for the credit card. Now, it's still possible to get the card if you don't live in either of those states, but it tends to be a bit more difficult for out-of-state applicants than for those living there. Let's first go over the main rewards of the card, and then we'll go over how you can get the card, even if you don't live in one of those states. With this card, you'll earn 5% cashback on dining, or 10 points per dollar spent, as each point's worth 50 cents, which is capped at 70,000 points per year. The annual 70,000 point cap for dining works out to $7,000 of spend, or a maximum of $350 in cashback for dining, which works out to a spend of just over $580 a month. The same's true for gas purchases, so you'll earn 5% cashback on gas, or 10 points per dollar spent, which again is capped at 70,000 points annually, or a $7,000 annual spend in that category. It's nice that they offer pretty high spend caps for both categories, and that they separate the spend caps for the two 5% categories, especially since dining purchases can really add up. It's also great that the spend caps are structured as annual caps rather than monthly or quarterly caps, so that your spending can fluctuate more freely month to month without worrying about hitting the cap. Outside of the 5% cashback on restaurants and gas purchases, you'll also earn 6 points per dollar spent, or 3% cashback, at grocery stores, discount stores, wholesale clubs, and qualifying telecom and utilities merchants, each being capped separately at 42,000 points annually, or again an annual spend cap of $7,000. You'll also earn 3 points per dollar spent, or 1.5% back, on other purchases with the card. It's also important to note that they're really vague about what is and isn't included for each of the 5% and 3% categories, including dining. They just state that the merchant category code used for each transaction determines which category it'll fall under for the cashback. This card's best for those that are looking for a well-rounded card offering 5% back on dining and gas year-round, with a pretty high spend cap for each category. It's not a great option if you're looking for a more straightforward card that outlines what is and isn't included within each category though. And this card's also much trickier to qualify for, as there are quite a few hurdles to becoming eligible to apply for the card. Now let's get into how you can actually get this card. In order to become a Redstone Federal Credit Union member, you'll need to be eligible for membership from one of their set options, and you'll need to open a share savings account with them as well, with a minimum balance of at least $5 required in order to open the account, and the $5 balance has to be maintained in your account at all times. Now, you can become a member of this credit union if one of their eligibility options applies to you, but since most of their options only apply to those living in certain areas of Alabama or Tennessee, or for those that have family that are members, the main option for anyone that's out of state is eligibility by belonging to one of Redstone's membership partner organizations. There are over 1,800 different organizations, clubs, churches, and businesses that offer Redstone membership, and they do provide a full list on their website of all their partner organizations. One popular organization people often go with is the Financial Fitness Association, which is based in San Francisco. This association charges $8 for a year of membership, which isn't bad compared to the card's rewards. And they do state they have an open membership which isn't restrictive in terms of the city, county, or state you're in, so the state you live in shouldn't matter. It's important to note though, you'll need to remember to reapply for your Financial Fitness Association membership every year, as they don't allow auto renewal of their annual membership, which can be a bit of a hassle to have to do every single year. Once you're eligible for a Redstone Federal Credit Union membership through a partner organization or one of their other methods available, you'll be able to open your share savings account with Redstone in order to join Redstone's membership program, and then you can apply for the credit card. So overall, the process is pretty clunky and inefficient, and you'll likely need to pay that $8 membership fee every year to the Financial Fitness Association if you can't qualify another way. So you are technically paying for your 5% cashback rewards from the card every year, even if it isn't much. In my opinion, the other cards on this list still have pretty great rewards with 4 to 5% cashback on dining, and those cards with spend caps do have relatively high caps for dining, and are much easier to maintain for the long term. If you're interested in this card, you can also earn 30,000 bonus points, in other words a $150 bonus, after you spend $3,000 within the first 90 days of opening your credit card account. This card also has no foreign transaction fees, which is great. There isn't a 0% in-trade PR for new purchases with the card, but that's not a big deal. The Redstone Visa Signature card's a super well-rounded credit card that easily offers the best cashback rewards on this list, with 5% back on both dining and gas, and 3% back on a bunch of great categories, like grocery stores, discount stores, wholesale clubs, and telecom and utilities companies. The annual spend cap of $7,000 per individual category is really generous, and since you're earning year-round rewards, the card itself is super easy to use, as you won't need to select categories from a list, track rotating categories, or manually activate offers. It's unfortunate they haven't given much information about what qualifies for each category though, especially for restaurants and gas. It's also not ideal that most people will likely need to pay the $8 membership fee for the Financial Fitness Association in order to become a member of the credit union, and then remember to reapply each year to remain a member of that organization, since they don't allow automatic renewals. Of course, you'll also need to keep your savings account open with the credit union and maintain that $5 minimum balance at all times as well. If you're willing to do what's necessary to apply for and maintain the card though, it's definitely a great option to consider. Overall, my personal favorite card to use for dining purchases is the US Bank Altitude Go card for unlimited 4% cashback, and I'll sub in my Discover It cashback card or my Chase Freedom Flex card if they're featuring restaurants on their 5% cashback calendar during a given quarter to bump up my rewards. Depending on the quarterly categories, I'll sometimes use my Citi Custom Cash card for dining as well. With those 3 cards that have spend caps for the 5% back, the cap basically works out to about $500 a month. And I try not to spend too much on dining in, takeout, and delivery anyway, so it's usually not too hard for me to keep my spending under the cap either way. I don't think the US Bank Cash Plus Visa card's the best card to use for dining, unless maybe you exclusively eat fast food when spending on dining, and rarely order takeout from third-party dining delivery apps. Honestly though, that card is much better suited for other categories like home utilities, which are generally harder to earn elevated cashback on. I think while the Redstone Visa Signature card offers some impressive cashback rates, especially with 5% back on both dining and gas, up to some pretty high spend caps, there's still an awful lot of hassle involved in becoming eligible for the card, and then maintaining the card by reapplying for the organization membership every year, especially since it's best to keep no annual fee credit cards open for the long run if you can. So I do think this card's better suited for anyone that can qualify for membership by using one of the other methods they offer, for those living in or with some ties to Alabama or Tennessee. That wraps up our list of the best no annual fee cards that offer 4 to 5% cashback on dining. Let me know in the comments, do you have any of the credit cards on this list? Also, what card are you currently using for dining purchases? If you enjoyed this video, you may be interested in this video next, where we go over the new Wells Fargo Attune card, which offers unlimited 4% cashback on over 40 non-traditional categories. Or this video, where we cover some of the best catch-all cards that'll earn you 1.5% to 3% cashback on your miscellaneous purchases. If this video was helpful to you, it'd be a huge help if you could click like and subscribe if you haven't yet. It really helps get our videos out to more people to help them save money, and it's totally free. If you want to be notified when we post new videos, be sure to click the notification bell as well. Thanks for watching and see you next time.